Welcome to the Crimson Engine. My name's Rubidium. Today we are talking about producing, the logistical, financial engine of filmmaking. Unless a producer is making things happen, nothing is happening. So even though the director is the person in charge of the film creatively, that is a huge element. The director can only function if they have the resources, the crew, the cameras, the locations, the script given to them by the producer. The producer is the one that puts the film together, keeps it running, and delivers the film to whoever's paying for it, be that the studio or ultimately the audience. And then that profit allows them to make the next movie. So without producers, the film doesn't happen. I just read the biography of Michael Ovitz, who started at William Morris and then with other agents defected and started his own agency, CAA, Creative Arts Agency. This was in the 70s, I believe. Changed Hollywood in a lot of ways. He wasn't himself a producer, but he reorganized Hollywood in a radical way to allow basically breaking up the old studio system and putting the power in the hands of the talent. A lot of the time that is actors, sometimes that's directors, but it basically led to a transformation of how films are made and the scale at which they're made. It sort of unleashed new Hollywood. So the quote that really affected me, I was listening to it walking around Miami, and I had to sit down and type the quote into my notes app because I really didn't want to forget it. It crystallized for me something that has been true of filmmaking for as long as I've been doing it, for 25 something years. And I'd never heard someone say it so eloquently, especially someone who had used this as a fundamental truth to not only getting movies made, but transforming the way that films are made. What he said was, nothing in Hollywood is anything until it's something. And the only way to make it something is a profound display of belief. If you keep insisting that a set of shifting priorities is a movie, it will eventually become one. What I think he put his finger on was the fact that there's always this sort of standoff when it comes to films. You have a great script. The author doesn't want to option it until it's with the right director. You have the right director, but that person doesn't want to commit until they know what the budget is, what their paycheck is, who's going to star in it. The studio doesn't want to pay for it until they have the right pieces in place and they know how they're going to market it, which means actors. The actor doesn't want to commit until, one, they know how much they're being paid. Two, they want to know who's directing it. Three, they want to know who else is going to be in the film with them. So you have this, and this is just that's a small view of all the different factors that are in play. And why most films fall over most of the time is that no one can move forward until someone else has made a decision. And so what would happen, and what continues to happen, is that everybody's waiting for everyone else, and then the movie goes away. It gets put into turnaround, or it just falls apart because you can't get that first yes that then sets off the chain of all the other yeses. All you get with films is maybe. If I call Steven Spielberg today and offer him my script, you might get a no, but you'll probably get a maybe. Like, oh, maybe we can, maybe we can't, maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. What Ovitz is saying is that your job as in his case, the agent, but in most cases, the producer, is to keep insisting that this movie is happening. Once a movie is happening, once it becomes real, then everyone else wants to jump on. And it doesn't become real because the money's committed. It doesn't come real because it's greenlight at the studio. It becomes real because somebody believes in it. And I think the point that so many people miss, especially people that are new to film or even people that have been doing it their whole lives, is we all want to believe in something. Everyone does. The actor, the director, the investor, the studio, the audience. We all want to believe in something that we can see is going to be true or is likely to be true. The art of producing is believing in it, even though it is the remote possibility. So we believe in it, even though the evidence is against us. You think, why would anyone do that? Why would we invest ourselves and our determination, our energy, our reputations into something that's unlikely? It's like putting all your life savings on, 37 on the roulette wheel and then acting as though you're going to get a new house and a new car and all these things. It doesn't happen until someone believes. So you as the producer, sometimes as the director producer, sometimes as the writer producer, director, cinematographer, which is what most of us will start doing. When we don't have any track record, when we don't have any experience, we often have to do all of the roles on a film in order to get it to move forward. What we have to do is be the first one that commits, be the first one that says, this is a reality. All these shifting possibilities, as Ovid said, they're all going to come together in a really great way and make a really great film. And it really is our certainty that we're selling. The director has a vision, the writer has their script, their idea. What the producer in the purest sense is selling is their belief. They are going to commit to this thing. They are going to see it as real before anyone else has, when it has almost no chance of becoming real. The longer you do this, the more projects you see fall over and the more effort it takes to believe that this thing is going to happen. And this happens at every level. If you look at some of the most successful producers in history, like Jerry Bruckheimer, I would bet that even though he's produced 50 films, Dino De Laurentiis, hundreds of films, I would bet that for those 100 that they make, there are thousands that didn't make it. And it's because they're working at such a big level. We think, oh, they just go to the studio. They say, I'm making a new Tom Cruise movie. They get a check. They go to Tom Cruise. They say, hey, show up. Here's the script. Show up on this day. I really don't think that's how it happens, because those guys are always pushing the envelope of what's possible. Jerry Bruckheimer made a $50 million Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Then he made a $100 million Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Then he made a $200 million Pirates of the Caribbean movie. He's always pushing what's possible and what's acceptable. He just like us as independent, producers who are trying to get, $100,000 or $200,000 film made. He's trying to get a $200 million film made, and he gets the same no's that we get. He's just doing it at a bigger scale. So he has confidence, a track record, access to all these contacts. He too is trying to push the envelope. So I bet he gets as many no's as an independent filmmaker gets. I mean, Jerry Bruckheimer could turn around and easily make a $50 million movie, but people would see that and say, oh, look, Jerry Bruckheimer made a $200 million movie. Now he's making $50 million movies. He's fallen off. He's gone backwards. He's on the decline. And that's something, big producers are really conscious of. So they don't want that. They want to get bigger and better. So they get as much rejection. They also need this industrial strength belief. In fact, they need it more than an independent producer, because they're working on such a big scale and they need to bring together so many stars, so much money, so many locations. If you think a film crew of $100,000 movie with 5 or 6 people is tough, coordinating, imagine coordinating 300 people on a small Caribbean island, all of whom are getting paid, thousands of dollars a day. You're literally burning money by the second when you work at that level. And if you have a storm, or you have, which is pretty likely, you have rain, your star gets arrested, someone gets sick, the director goes through a divorce, all of those things can derail those big productions. And so you need that same belief. This is going to be fine. This is going to happen. It's going to be brilliant. It's going to be the best one ever. So I think that this industry and that particular role of the producer attracts those same kind of people who have that skill, who are able to commit and believe in something that normally wouldn't be possible. When Francis Ford Coppola was asked about the production of Apocalypse Now, which I've covered on this podcast a lot because I find it really fascinating. It's almost this, mythic level production. He said, anything that you build on a large scale or with intense passion invites chaos. So he's saying, not only do you need to believe that this thing is going to go great, you know that something very creative or something on large scale, or like Apocalypse Now is both. You know that it's going to go off the rails. You know that there's going to be conflict, there's going to be disaster. So you go into it, or you have to believe in it, knowing one, that it's very unlikely that it gets made. And if it does get made, there will be huge problems along the way. So there's sort of this willful denial about the nature of filmmaking that you need as a producer to move forward with any project. I would wager that behind every famous director that we have is a just as gifted producer that clears the path for them to have the freedom that they need to create the movies that we love. So every director, whether it's Chris Nolan or Ridley Scott or Steven Spielberg, whoever it is, they have someone behind the scenes who they work with very, very closely, probably have multiple phone calls with every day, that sort of acts as takes all the bullets, takes the flak, moving forward to give them the space to have their, to express themselves creatively, to make these incredibly brave movies. There's someone that, when the film isn't going well, goes to the studio and fields the questions, that reassures the studio executives, that signs the tough deals, that negotiates. I remember when I read Peter Jackson's biography about making Lord of the Rings, him and his co-writers, I think it's his wife and maybe one other person, the three of them, it took them almost a decade to get the rights to Lord of the Rings and then to get the money to make it as 3 films, because originally it was only going to be 2. And it was at Miramax for a long time with the Weinsteins, and they basically decided that they would only do 1 movie, and so they had to take it to New Line to get it made into originally 2 and then 3. Which, if you imagine Lord of the Rings as a single film, it wouldn't nearly have had the impact. But they said that the trials and tribulations, the difficulty, the frustration, the endless back and forth, the waiting, the heartbreak that they experienced in those 10 years of getting the rights and securing the funding is what prepared him for the next, 10 years of making and releasing the trilogy. Had he not gone through the effort and learned to cope and had built up a reserve of faith and courage and determination through the producing process, he would not have had the ability to do the directing process, the hands-on producing, which he did as well, which is incredible. People so often think producing is negotiating prices and negotiating the money with the studio, or the ordering lunch, or like getting everyone at the same time in the same place ready to work. That is an important part of producing. A lot of that is the line producing. Sometimes it's called the footwork. The real, that is a almost interchangeable skill. That is a craft. It takes is difficult to do, absolutely takes skill. It takes a lot of skill and connections in the area that you're filming. So if I were to go and shoot in Buenos Aires, right, I would need someone who is a line producer there that has connections, knows the lay of the land, knows the laws, has the contacts to make that happen. They would be the on-set producer. They would be the line producer. But to actually make the shoot happen in Buenos Aires, to actually raise the money, get the right actors to sign on, to make it worthwhile for the investors, those things is where the real producing happens, I believe. That's where you have to have that belief against evidence that this is going to work out for the film. You have to have this almost fanatical devotion to getting the film made. And that is what a producer, I think, should focus on. You can definitely start small. Like, it is crazy to say, I've never made a film before, I've never produced anything, I'm going to raise $10 million to make this, this movie. It is much easier to build up to that level when you've started in small things. And this is why I think if you're coming from the commercial world, or you're coming from the corporate video world, you don't really get those skills. Like in corporate video, there's a demand. Yes, you have to pitch for these things and make connections, but the job, the work sort of comes to you. You don't need to fight and claw, some company into doing a promotional video. They want the promotional video made. You can practice by fighting and clawing and believing that you're going to do it in a different way or make a much higher budget. But ultimately, when the commercial, whatever, is coming to you, when you win the pitch, I guess, then the momentum has already been set up by the ad agency or the marketing company or the company internally to spend that money. That doesn't really train a producer into believing in a particular project and going out and making it a reality. When I worked at TV commercials 15 years ago, a lot of the producers of those commercials were paired with directors, and then the director would try and make a feature with them. So the producer would come along with the director to try and to shoot that. And with a few exceptions, it usually didn't work out, because even though the producer was used to spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, used to putting together a film crew, shooting, delivering a project, they didn't have that core ability to be able to bring the possibilities into a reality. They didn't have, it's almost like a quantum superposition of, here are these things that have a potential, and I'm going to believe in them until they become a reality. That is a real skill, I think, of producing. And that is the one that, if you want to be a producer, which I guess if you want to be a director and make movies, unless you have some, lifelong friend or somebody to be that person for you, you're going to have to be that person for yourself, at least until you prove that you can do this job better than other people, that you can do this job, that you have something unique to bring to the directing area, the directing chair. Something unique to bring to directing. Your vision has to be valuable enough that people would give you that job over other things. And you can't show that until you've produced something, and you can't produce something. You're not going to get a producer interested in you until you can show them what you can do. So at least for the first job, often you are your own producer, and so you need that belief. If you're also the writer, that helps, because it's far, far easier to believe in your ideas than it is to take someone else's ideas, get their permission to make it real, make it a reality, and then add your own spin to it, whether you're authoring the script or modifying the script, or you're putting your own spin on it in the way that you're directing. So producing is sort of the superpower. is the hidden superpower of filmmaking. It is that ability to move forward and hear no's as yeses. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger had that in his biography, Total Recall. It was Lucille Ball that he met when he guest starred on I Love Lucy, who sort of mentored him in his early Hollywood days, where she said, when you hear no, when someone tells you no, you hear yes. And you say, oh, thank you, fantastic, wonderful, okay. It was her way of preserving her energy and her enthusiasm and her momentum. So she was a producer, and a fantastic one. She was, in a time when there were no Hollywood female executives. She was, the producer of her own show, and she was the most highly paid actor in Hollywood and television. She taught Arnold to sort of kill them with kindness and always cherish your sense of self-belief, and don't let rejection kill your enthusiasm, just to keep moving forward as though the person had said yes when they actually had said no. So how do we do this? How do we have that sort of incredible belief against all the evidence? I honestly think it starts with self-belief. It starts with the idea that the unshakable idea that you're supposed to be doing these things, that this is your destiny, this is your fate, that you're really an incredibly successful, creative person that the world just hasn't discovered yet. I don't know why I have sort of always had that perspective on myself. Maybe it's innate, maybe it's something that I got from my parents, who are incredibly supportive of my choice of career. But I've never met a super confident, self-assured, determined person who wasn't confident in themselves and wasn't fanatical in their belief that they were destined for great things. Again, just like believing in the movie that you're making, I think this is self-belief is not a inbuilt quality of someone. It's a choice that you make. You say, I have these goals to achieve these things. The only way I'm going to be able to do that is if I have confidence, if I have self-belief, I'm really assured, and I can use that to affect and infect the people around me. So I need this trait. I'm going to choose to have it. I was listening to a Diary of a CEO podcast yesterday, and they had a guy on who was a communications expert, and he was talking, Vin Jiang, and he was talking about how he chooses to believe that he can accomplish what he sets out to accomplish. He chooses to believe that it's almost a magical factor in the universe, that the universe can be molded to our dreams, that we don't live in this cold, impartial world, but that whatever you want to call it, destiny or God or fate, that once we're given a dream, we're also given the power to achieve that dream. And as we pursue it, we will have these amazing opportunities and coincidences that will teach us exactly what we need to learn in order to accomplish what we set out to. He said, even if when I die, I go to the afterlife and there's someone there that tells me, oh, that's actually not true, the world doesn't care about your dreams. He said, even if I were to find out after I died that that wasn't true, it still makes sense for me to believe it. That belief gives you a lot more power. It gives you a lot more determination and confidence than not having that belief. Maybe this is what Stanley Kubrick was thinking about when he said, however vast the darkness, we must supply our own light. I take that to mean if you go into the world looking for help, if you go into the world looking for, the light that is out there, you might be disappointed because you might not find it. You might not find it in the way that you want. You might not find it quickly enough. If you go out into the world to pursue your projects, your dreams, your films, with the idea that you are going to bring the light you need with you. You are going to make the light yourself. You are going to have the confidence and the clarity and the determination to make it happen, even if everyone along the way is either actively resistant to your dreams or totally ambivalent to them. You set out on the journey with the supplies that you need. Then if you then find help along the way, it's welcome and it's unexpected. But you know that you don't need that to get where you're going. You know that you will get there no matter what. That confidence is a magical ability in itself, because other people, I think, sense it and come along with you on your journey, because it's all like those people that join cults. They want the certainty that someone out there knows, projects when they know what's going to be true. Making a film is sort of like founding your own little cult. And if you want, what you need to do that is have confidence and self-belief first of all. So you're going to supply it for as many people that need it, because you have an infinite well inside you of certainty, because you know this thing is true. That perspective has really changed things for me in my own filmmaking, in all of my projects, in my pursuits in life. When I set off not to discover evidence for what I am pursuing, but I set off with the confidence that it's going to happen despite any evidence along the way, it tends to magnetize to you other people and the things that you need to complete the task. At the end of these podcasts, I usually say something like, don't die with your stories inside you. Get out into the world and make them real and share your truth with the world. The way to do that is to believe in it first. If you believe, others will follow. Thank you very much for watching and listening. I will see you next time.